including members of Women's Action for Peace, Ottawa and Toronto, Kingston and Area Women for Peace. And we join with our sisters from around the world this weekend to demonstrate and resist the threatening presence at the Seneca Army Depot. Thank you.
Yay. Thank you, Jackie. Okay, the next woman that I'd like to introduce to you is from Britain. Her name is Fiona Adamson. F-I-O-N-A, Adamson, A-D-A-M-S-O-N.
This is a statement from women from Britain, France and West Germany at the Seneca Women's Peace Encampment. We are here to support the nuclear disarmament movement in the US and in particular to protest against the Seneca Army Depot where we strongly believe the Pershing II is stored. We are objecting because of the intention to deploy the Pershing II along with the cruise missile in Europe at the end of this year. European countries would be gravely endangered by this deployment because the USSR is likely to feel increasingly threatened. The safety and future of Europe is endangered by the combined fears of the superpowers. Their decision to deploy nuclear weapons in Europe implies their intention to use them there. We object to the US influencing NATO to use our countries as a possible battleground conveniently distant from the American continent. Although this has been agreed to by European governments, they by no means represent the view of European populations. For example, the British government was recently re-elected by a mere 39% of the people. But because of the electoral system, the Conservative Party maintains control. A recent survey shows that 60% of the British people are opposed to the deployment of cruise missiles in Britain. We feel very connected with the women's peace movement in the US and are supported by the activities of the movement against the deployment of cruise and Pershing in Europe. There are women among us here from Greenham Common in Britain where there is a well-established women's peace camp which inspired the establishment of the Seneca Encampment. The feeling of unity between women is very strong and has created a sense of empowerment.
The next woman who will speak to you is Marie-Louise Beck-Oberdorf. Marie-Louise is a member of the Green Party and was recently elected to the West German Parliament. Marie-Louise?
Yes, I have came here for the German people who are adapting to the majority against the deployment of Pershing II and cruise missiles. And as you might know, our country is going to be the only one where Pershing II shall be deployed. Now we are very convinced and we know that those first strike weapons will be in high danger, and it's not only going to be Europe being in high danger but the United States too, because the talks of a limited war which is being planned will not work out that way. The limited war and the thinking of it will mean that there might be a war starting in Europe and taking over to the United States. So we have come here to link with our sisters to object to the madmen running the world, when we want to stop the arms race because we will have no chance if we don't make it. So coming to this depot here really means to go down to the roots. Here evil is being deployed and we want to get rid of this, and this is why we came here for. And one more last sentence I want to say. There has been a lot of talk about anti-Americanism. Now here you can really see that there is no anti-Americanism. We really feel very, very much linked to those sisters over here who are fighting for the same cause, and we are all wanting to go together. We really feel a sisterhood with all the nations, all the women of the world, and of course the male people too who are going along with our cause.
Great.
Very good. Beck-Oberdorf, it's B-E-C-K-O-B-E-R-D-O-R-F.
I'd like now to introduce to you Joan Coxedge. Joan is a member of the Labour Party in Australia, a member of the Parliament. Joan?
Thank you very much. I'm very proud to be here. I'm on a very brief visit to your country, and I'm proud to have come up with a group of Washington women, to have camped with them and shared with their experiences and our feelings and fears for the future. And my presence here is to positively show my solidarity in an international sense with the support of huge numbers of Australian women in the anti-war movement, and with the sense that all women support the action of the Seneca women. And I want to say this, that Australia is a vital part of US global war strategy because of our geographic position. We have on our soil at least 19 very important American military bases. We have your B-52 bombers flying over our country. We have your nuclear warships and your nuclear submarines using our ports. And that makes Australia our prime nuclear target. As well as that, we have at least 20% of the world's uranium. And as you know, uranium is the material used in nuclear weapons. And I just want to say this, that in every sense of the word, the struggle of the women here is also our struggle. And our struggle in Australia is also their struggle. And we will win that struggle. Thank you. S-E-D-G-E. S is in Sammy.
I'd like to introduce to you Sylvia Sandoval, who is with AMES, the Women's Association of El Salvador. Sylvia?
Yes, I'd like to read a statement from the Women's Association of El Salvador. On behalf of the women of El Salvador and the people of El Salvador in general, I'd like to extend warm greetings of solidarity with our North American sisters, as well as the other sisters around the world who are struggling for peace. We share in the struggle against the ever-increasing threat of nuclear war, a threat which is not stopped now will lead to worldwide catastrophe. We denounce the development and deployment of the crews in Pershing and understand very well the constant fear felt by people knowing that these instruments of death lie in your own backyard. In El Salvador and Central America, we are witnessing with anguish the United States' enormous military escalation that threatens the lives of the people of the region. At the moment, the Reagan administration, in addition to training the Salvadorian troops by the Green Berets in Honduras, is constructing a military base at the cost of $150 million, capable of landing transport jets. It's depositing millions of dollars of military equipment in Honduras with the aim of having a base from where it can launch its operations in order to control the region. It has also made an agreement with Israel for that country to supply millions of dollars of military weapons with the aid of circumventing any limitations placed on the United States by Congress. The United States has also established radar bases, maintains a covert war against Nicaragua in order to destabilize it, violating United States law. The people of El Salvador and Central America want nothing but peace. In El Salvador, since 1980, 42,000 of our people have been massacred by the military government, which is maintained by the United States. Our people have been struggling to bring about change and have called since that time for negotiations, which have been constantly being rejected by the Reagan administration. Now, with the excuse of national security interests, the Reagan administration has escalated the militarization to such a degree that the whole region is being threatened. Reagan has deployed the USS Ranger, which is capable of carrying 70 war jets with its escort ships of 8 escort ships, and is also sending the USS New Jersey with its escort ships and the Coral Sea with escort ships, and is deploying 4,000 U.S. troops to the area. Within the next 6 months, they are going to have military maneuvers with the Honduran troops on Honduran soil, and these exercises consist of air, sea, and land maneuvers. We consider this as hostile. The escalation, as well as Reagan's threats of quarantine and blockade, as well as his statements by Patrick that there cannot be peace as long as Nicaragua exists. The people of Central America and North America are justifiably worried about the potential of bellicose confrontation, and we're asking for Reagan to consider the proposals of peace made by the Contador Group, by Nicaragua and Cuba, to demonstrate the United States' genuine interest in peace by withdrawing the troops, advisors, and equipment and bases from the area. We are demanding an end to U.S. intervention in El Salvador, and we join with our sisters here and around the world in efforts to halt U.S. military escalation worldwide so that our future generations can live in peace. Sandoval, S-A-N-D-O-V-A-L.
First name?
Silvia. Silvia, S-I-L-V-I-A.
At a U.S. base, cruise missiles will be deployed this year. Comes Anna Vio.
Well, I'm here as an Italian, as a European, and as a woman. As an Italian, as an European, and as a person who lives in Sicily, an hour and a half away from a base where, by the end of this year, 112 cruise missiles are bound to arrive. I'm here connecting with my American sister to protest the deployment of these missiles. The presence of these missiles is very, very dangerous. Even the only presence, because all the Italian earth and the Italian ground, not to speak for the Sicilian ground, it's a very highly earthquake ground. And the only presence of nuclear missiles is that makes endangers the whole land. Not to speak of the deployment. We shiver, all the women and people in Italy, we shiver, and all Europeans. We tremble at the idea that in less than 10 minutes, the whole Europe could disappear by pressing buttons, not by us, but buttons that are going to be pressed and pushed in the States or in the Soviet Union. So this is why we are here. We don't want to be the backyard of nuclear disaster, and this I don't even want to think about it. I can't believe it's going to happen, and I'm sure that we are going to make it stop. I'm here also as a woman because, as a woman, like all the women in my country and the group of women I belong to in Sicily, we feel a great sisterhood with all the women of all the world. We feel that we have no boundaries as women. All women in the world share the same conditions and pay the same price for armaments, for the cost that armaments expenditure is putting on our shoulders. And as women, we feel that we are citizens of the world rather than citizens of different nations. And it's wonderful, and it's really great to be here at the encampment. I've been living at the encampment for over a month now, and I'm very, very grateful to all the American women who I've seen and met here, that they feel the same concern and the same hope about our thought and about our future. We want to save the world's life. We want to save the world. We want to save the earth. And I'm going to read a statement, the ending of a statement that we wrote in Sicily. We say no to the balance of terror. We say no to NATO and to the Warsaw Pact. By the way, in Sicily we already have 5 NATO bases, and we have reasons to think that there are already nuclear weapons in these NATO bases. We feel that we are already invaded because there are many, many NATO bases all over Sicily, all over Italy, and also we don't feel very comfortable because we feel that our government is so much ruled by the American government that our government accepts everything that Americans want our government to do. This we don't like. We don't like the economic game that Reagan has been playing towards Europe, making the European economy very weak and endangering, so that they could threaten the European governments to accept the nuclear weapons. This is what we have been feeling. Of course, when I say when we say that we are against the US, we are not against American people. We love American people. I've been feeling the great hopes and the great solidarity of American women here. But we don't like the American government. We feel oppressed and very much by the American government. So we say no to NATO and no to the Warsaw Pact. No to the missiles in Comiso or Sicily. Yes to the immediate unilateral disarmament in Italy. Yes to the talks for nuclear disarmament. Many unilateral disarmaments for a denuclearized Europe. Convert military budgets in investments for a better quality of life. This is the message of women. If this should not be heeded, we stop motherhood, because we think this is the message we say to all the women. We create life. What's the good of creating life when the governments are organizing and planning the death of the earth? Thanks to all American women. Woo!
Spell your name, please.
Anna Vio. A-N-N-A-V-I-O.
A woman who has lived and worked at the Women's Encampment for a Future of Peace and Justice is Keziah Velarde. K-E-Z-I-A-V-I-L-A-R-D-I. Keziah?
I am here to protest the creation and the deployment of the Cruise and the Pershing II missiles. As an American, I feel it is my responsibility to stop these weapons from ever being sent to European soil. As a woman, I know it is my job to do. I believe these weapons change the nature of the arms race and will bring the world to the brink of nuclear war. When I heard that these weapons can reach Soviet soil in 6 to 8 minutes from American bases in Europe, when I learned that these weapons cannot be detected by radar and therefore force the Soviets and other nations to constantly fear their deployment, I knew I must come here today. I am here to protect the future of our beautiful planet.
Now, Ann Dodesky.
Can somebody tell us the plans for today so that we can kind of plan? Okay.
We have many women from many different countries here today, and they've expressed their unity with us, American women. And the women that you have not heard from are all the women in this country, black women, women of color in other countries, the women of Nicaragua and El Salvador. Those women are the women who are silenced. And when you begin to talk about militarism and the kind of aggression and violence that militarism represents, you have to begin looking at the condition of women, because that is the bottom line of militarism. That is why we're here as women, and that is why we speak for not only ourselves, who are in a position of privilege to be able to be here and protest with our lives, but we represent those other women who are silenced by militarism, by male aggression, and those are all the connections that this peace camp represents. We welcome all of the women here today, the women in the media, and we hope that you'll join us in our protest. Some of the program that we have today will be a 2-mile walk.
Excuse me, Ann.
Yeah.
Before we go on and describe today's scenario, I would like to introduce...
Nothing illegal. And I would just like to tell you on Saturday morning, approximately 100 of us started out from Seneca Falls. We were in a peace walk, walking to our encampment to spread the news and to let people know what we were marching for and what this encampment is about. When we got to Waterloo, first let me say that we had told all the proper authorities. We had notified everybody. We were guaranteed by the Sheriff's Department that we had a right to march on our peaceful march. We got to the town of Waterloo, and there was a solid wall of, I think it's fair to say, largely hostile people awaiting us. There were 100 of us. There were approximately 250 to 300 of them, and our group, in order to kind of diffuse the crowd and to decrease the chance of any kind of hand-to-hand violence because it was that kind of tension. Most of us sat down in that group. We were very shortly surrounded by the townspeople. Many of them were yelling very hostile things to us. It was a very frightening situation. And soon the sheriff and the local authorities started to tell us that we could either be charged for creating a riot or disorderly conduct. And he also told us that anybody who was standing in the street would be arrested for disorderly conduct. There were 300 townspeople, and 2 of the townspeople were arrested, and over 50 of us, and there were 100 of us there. There are approximately still about 49 or 50 women who are right now, this very minute, being held in the Interlaken school because there was not enough room in their county jail. We were moved about 4 a.m. in the morning. The women there, the consensus is for bail solidarity. I personally came out on bail this morning, but the consensus is for the other 50 women there to stay there until they are granted an unconditional release. I am known as Jane Doe number 9, and there are many of us. And the reasons we will not give our names is because we did nothing to be arrested. None of us went to Seneca Falls or to Waterloo with the intent of doing civil disobedience, as opposed to today when some women are choosing to do that. But the situation arose, the townspeople were in our path, and they were telling us to retreat, and we did not do that, and he only arrested us and not them.
Can you say anything about the background?